Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the New Year Best You Summit here. I'm Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino. We're going to dream big today with Rick Keller. How are you?
Hi, Elizabeth. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you too. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you.
Yeah. So here on Best Ever You, every year we ask our community and we've asked our speakers each to pick a word, and it's kind of a word to guide you through the year, to anchor you in your year, rather than do all these resolutions and things like that. And we actually trended on Twitter with one word 2023, and we kind of are trending here and there still. So if you want to chime in, everybody, it's one word 2023. But all of our speakers have picked words. We've gone through everything from effort to commitment to perseverance to purpose. And today we are going to talk about, what's your word?
Goals.
Goals. What a great word.
Yes.
I love that. And I know one of your goals is to heal.
Yes, that's right.
Tell us, you want to tell us what
Just cracked a rib skiing in Park City, Utah, trying to ski above my level to impress my wife, and so I think I got her sympathy, not her respect. But cracked a rib, but I'll be fine. Just takes about 6 weeks, but
yeah.
luckily it happened on the final day, so I didn't get to miss too much.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to do that, that's a great place to do that because it's
That's
pretty spectacular view while you're aching. But I'll try not to make you laugh. I know it hurts when you laugh, but I'm sorry. Do you want to tell us? I don't want to read bios. I've been kind of having that firm line in the sand of not reading bios on this, but
Yeah.
you're actually Congressman Rick Keller, and I was hoping you would just tell people a little bit about you.
Oh,
About yourself
absolutely.
for me.
So after graduating from Vanderbilt Law School, I practiced law for a few years. I got elected to Congress, where I served for 8 years. I was chairman of the Higher Education Subcommittee. My big emphasis there was increasing Pell Grants, increase college aid to help children from low-income families go to college. And then after Congress, I came back and practicing law, and I'm a partner in a law firm in Orlando, Florida. Live just outside of Orlando with my wife, Lori, a little town called Winter Park. And I wrote a book called Chase the Bears, Little Things to Achieve Big Dreams. And so I do speaking, writing, some TV commentating, and then practicing law.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's a great book, by the way, and that's how I have the great fortune to know you
Yes.
through HCI, which is our publisher, and I'm very grateful, and I'm appreciative of your time and your energy and being here with us. It means a lot. Everybody's really excited that you're coming on board with us on the summit. So they're like, "Really, he's coming?" I'm like, "Yes," and he's super nice.
Real good.
Yeah, and so um, you're going to teach us about goals, and I think this is a really interesting time when people set goals, resolutions, all those things. But and whatever you want to say there, sometimes they don't stick. It's a I don't know do you know what percentage of people actually like achieve or don't achieve what they set to do like right now?
So 91% of us won't achieve our New Year's resolution goals, only 9%. And so it occurred to me there's an author, Ben Stein, you may have heard of him. He wrote a book called How to Ruin Your Life. And I thought, you know, how to ruin your life in terms of goal setting is a topic I'd like to talk about, because so many of us, and you wouldn't be watching this interview if you weren't naturally ambitious and wanting to be successful, but so many of us ruin our New Year's by the way we set these goals. We set these gigantic, unachievable goals. I'm going to lose 50 pounds in a month or two to get to look good at my reunion, or I'm going to be doing cardio 90 minutes a day, and I'm just going to eat nothing but raw broccoli and chicken. And
Mm,
Bill Gates can be a billionaire. Why not me? I'll do that too. And it just becomes so overwhelming. And what inevitably happens is people quit. And research has even shown there's a day that people quit typically. It's National Quitters Day. This year, it's the 13th of January. And I would like to see folks who are naturally ambitious and want to succeed hit their goals. And I think there's a lot better way to do it than making the massive goal up front that's only going to make yourself beat yourself up over and over.
yeah. And so I'm trying to make sure my phone doesn't go off in the middle of the interview. I just realized I forgot to set it to airplane mode as you were talking. I'm like, oh, that is not a goal to have that go off while you are speaking.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so National Quitters Day is January 13th.
Yes.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so we want like I'm gonna star that. I just wrote that down as you said that. I'm like, I will succeed by not quitting on that day, right?
We
That's
got to
the
beat that day.
goal.
That's right.
So what do you think people should do then?
So rather than you always hear think big, I think the secret is just the opposite. I think there should be baby step micro goals. And I think any big achievement really is just a collection of little baby step goals. And what I have learned from my own experience and wrote about in the book, that every big goal I've ever set has really just been a series of baby steps. And so whether it's applied, I could give you examples to grades or weight loss or whatever. I'd like people to have an overarching goal. I think there's some strategies we can use on how to set goals, but once you've used these three strategies, break that goal down into little bite-sized steps.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that actually. How do you well, so okay, so is it okay to dream big? Because the seminar, we're like New Year best you dream big. And I'm kind of the same way. I'm like, you can dream big and do all these amazing things, but you got to come back. And how you achieve that is the same way, like what you're saying is little goals. So do you want to
Right.
take that for our viewers and explain what you mean a little bit more by that? So this is incredibly useful to
Yeah.
them. Yeah. So
So I'll give you a couple examples of what I'm talking about and dreaming big, but breaking it down. I used to be a pretty decent athlete, and as a high school football player, but I found myself in Congress by my last term. I'd been my weight was my all-time high because you're going around to these receptions and fundraisers and stuff, and I had a stagnant lifestyle, and I hated the way I was looking. I just had let myself go, and a buddy of mine did a fat joke that wasn't meant to be mean spirited, and I'm such a jolly guy, and I laughed at it, but it secretly hurt my feelings. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna turn this around. And so what I did is I hired a nutritionist who put me on a very reasonable caloric restriction of 1,800 calories, and she set a goal of saying we're only going to do 2 pounds a week. That's it, and we're going to have an exercise log journal. And so in terms of setting micro goals, what I set my goal at for that week, believe it or not, was just to jog 5 minutes a day.
yeah,
That's it. And when I say jog 5 minutes, I mean a little old lady in a wheelchair could go flying by me. I was jogging so slow,
yeah.
but I did it every single day. And at the end of 7 days, I was kind of proud of myself because I had this 100% consistency. And then the next week, I did the same thing. I just added 5 minutes. And the next week after that, just added 5 minutes. And so a couple months later, I'm running an hour in the morning. And a year later, I step on the scale and I'd lost 100 pounds. I'd never looked better. But it was a series of micro goals, very tiny little goals that kept me going, that helped boost my confidence. And I think that's what we need to do. I'll give you another example of dreaming big, but really breaking it down. The first big goal that I ever set in my life was to graduate first in my class in college. And I was pre-med, and I set that goal just before starting college. And I was a very average or mediocre student when I set that goal, but I had read this book that inspired me and I wrote this goal down. And my very first step when going to college wasn't to take classes such as physics and organic chemistry. I took a very light load of 14 hours, and I took things like badminton, softball, sociology, public speaking. You have to try hard in those classes not to get an A. But I took the classes that were very, very easy for me as an athlete and public speaking, and I got my first 4.0. And then the next semester, very similar. Instead of 14 hours, I took 15. Instead of public speaking, advanced public speaking, but still pretty easy courses that built up. And then 4 years later, I stood on the stage, number one in my class. And by that point, I could take all those hard classes, organic chemistry and physics. But I knew that I needed to start small and have some achievements. And it was those achievements that gave me the confidence later to set bigger goals. Had I not graduated first in my class in college, I would have never got elected to Congress. Just because of the self-confidence that gave me that says, hey, you can set a big goal and make it happen. But the key was I set the big goal, but broke it down into tiny little steps.
Yeah. I kind of I have heard some of these things about you, but one thing I absolutely, you've said them to me on my radio show before. One of the things that I love about you is that you're a guy sharing these things, and you're sharing how you feel and how it made you feel, and it can be unusual sometimes for people to be like, this is what happened to me, and here I am, kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
love that about you because it doesn't sound like things have been just handed to you. 'Cause,
Yeah.
you think, like, "Oh, congressman," and, like, "Oh, here you go. You've got it easy," kinda thing, and you work.
Yeah. I
You
did.
work for it.
And my getting to Congress was really the same way. When I filed my papers to run, it was an open seat. And so when there's an open seat in Congress, everybody and their brother runs. And I had to run against the mayor and the state legislators and millionaires. And I'd never held public office before. I didn't have any rich friends or political connections at all. And so I did the same thing. I broke down my goal. My first goal was you have to raise $400,000 by a certain date. And that's all I did was raise that goal. And then it hit that goal. And then the next step was you have to make it into a runoff. And then the next step, you win your party nomination. And the next step, you get elected. And that's how I did it. And by focusing on each little goal at the time, like a laser beam, things started happening for me that were just like magical because it was achievable, and the universe will be on your side. I think if you're trying to do something for the greater good, and your heart is in the right place and you're doing it in an achievable way, I think the universe will align to help you.
Yeah.
And just to give you one example, in that particular goal, I set a goal to raise $400,000, which is something pretty hard to do. But I started reading that goal card over and over. And not too long after, I was invited to give a 5-minute speech in Washington. It was like American Idol for politicians. Every person got to speak 5 minutes, and they picked 16 of us finalists. And I was competing against pretty famous people that you would know, Mike Pence and others. And I had a kind of a funny little line in that talk that I started off with, and they erupted laughing, and they wrote me a check for $400,000. And the next thing I knew, I was in Congress. And so everything I've ever done that's significant, is whether it's weight loss, getting good grades, going to Congress, has always been because of smart little goals. And there was a zillion failures along the way, just like anyone else. But I'm a big believer in setting goals the right way, an achievable way.
Yeah. I have to do that too. I'm a Pell Grant kid, so I think I said that to you once before. I'm pretty grateful for that. My parents went very bankrupt when I
Yeah.
was young, and I was like, "How am I going to do this exactly?" Oh, I know, kind of thing. But the same thing when I got to college, I was like, "I'm not going to, bog myself down with chemistry and biology and all these things." I wanted to be a doctor,
Yeah.
and that I did the public speaking, the communications, I think I took dance or tap dancing. That's what it was. I did the same thing kind of thing just to kind of get myself acclimated.
Yes.
'Cause things in the background were crazy, and prove to myself as well, because I was a good student in high school, but I had no idea what was going to happen with college. And for me, like the University of Iowa is where I went, and it was like I went from a school where I had 200 kids in my graduating class to the University of Iowa, and it was huge. So
Yeah.
I came back and did a private college called St. Ambrose in Davenport, Iowa. And I'm grateful that I always say, any chance I get to mention them, but either University of Iowa or St. Ambrose, I'm always like, thank you, because
Oh,
I came in there crying, like,
yeah.
this is happening to me, kind of thing. And I don't know what to do. And my life is over, that kind of thing. And they just picked me right up and set me straight and did all these cool things. And I still talk to everybody today. And it matters. It mattered. And they did kind of the same thing that you're saying. We're going to set some goals. They're not
That's
going to be, you know, it's not going to be, you're going to be the president of the United States. It's going to be like, you're going to be here and you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
You
That's right.
know? So
But you can be the president, but let's first start off with thinking about being a state rep, and then a state senator, and then
yeah.
Congress. Just baby step it. It's funny you're talking about college. I just went back to my college to give a speech. I went to East Tennessee State undergrad, and when I was there, Kenny Chesney, the country star, was there too, and we both came back on the same day, homecoming day weekend. And so I walk into this auditorium, and I'm expecting like 5,000 people to stand and cheer and hear my great speech. And I think there's like 12 people like spread out. Kenny Chesney has 15,000 over here. So
And you've
anytime
got
you start
12.
thinking you're a big shot, something happens in life that kind of reminds you, hey,
Yeah.
you're just a regular guy.
Yeah. 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 That's all you need for that moment too is a book signing.
That's right.
Book signing with a few crickets going on in the background, a little chirp,
That's right.
no one showing up, and yeah, it
That's right.
very reminds you very quickly that you've got more work to do or whatever it is. But so
Yes.
yeah, I love this talk, and I was going to ask you, have you ever set a small goal and you're like, ah, that's not the right one. I got to do something else. I just did not. Like, has there ever been anything you haven't achieved? Like anything you've set out to do where you're like, nope.
Oh, I mean, I certainly have had failures. I had an election loss. I mean, I've had a divorce. I've had every setback where I'm not feeling good about myself physically, but I tend to have a pretty good attitude in terms of, life. Things happen for a reason, and I think there's a positive side to everything that's happens to you. I don't think you realize it then. Sometimes it takes many years looking back on your life, but every single thing that happened to me ended up being a positive thing in the long run. I have a wonderful marriage with an amazing lady, and I wouldn't have met her, if I didn't have the opportunity to be single. And I have a great career where I'm very blessed in terms of income, and I wouldn't have that if I still in the government salary right now either. So certainly a lot of failures. I think that the difference for me is that I asked myself, well, am I failing in an area where I'm trying to do something good, or is life kind of redirected me? And my view is, if you're trying to do something for the greater good and you're using your natural gifts, you're doing what comes easy to you, you might stumble, but you're not going to have any permanent failure. You're going to end up in the right place when it's all over.
Yeah. We have a question actually from the audience. They want to know what it was you said to the that made everybody laugh.
I said, because I was the last one to speak and I was just frustrated. They'd heard it all. And I said, guys, I feel like Elizabeth Taylor's seventh husband on his honeymoon night. I know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know how to make it interesting. And it was a bunch of old men CEOs, and they just erupted. They're like, did he just say that?
Yeah, you just said that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yes.
Okay, that answers the question. I love that. Is there anything such as setting something? Um, Let me ask this a different way. Okay, so all these small goals we have and stuff like that. What happens if you've got a really big goal? Like I sometimes will take a leap of faith and forget about the fear and everything in its way kind of thing and just go for it and see what happens. And then I'm like, I have a few wounds to lick here and there, but I'm generally glad I did that. Do you ever do that? Have you ever taken
Yeah,
a
I
big-
mean, I've had goals that I was successful at, but I realized I was spinning my wheels in the wrong direction. And the first one I'll give you was, I really wanted my mom and dad to be proud of me, and so I decided to become a doctor. And that's why I was pre-med. And so I had spent 4 years taking the hardest classes, and selfishly, to make myself look good on the med school application, I volunteered at a hospital my senior year. And I found out that I hated it, everything about it. I hate the sight of blood, the x-rays, the smell of the hospital. I didn't like science in the first place. And I'm like, wow, I've spent all of this time achieving this goal, but this stuff doesn't come easy to me. Speaking comes easy to me. Communicating comes easy to me. Being a lawyer, politician does, but this doesn't. And so I was like, wow, I've been exposed to life a little bit. The smartest thing in that situation is to quit that course and redirect your energy. It doesn't make you a quitter per se, is you're quitting something that's not worthwhile for you and putting your energy into something that is worthwhile. And so I made that switch, and the world thought I was crazy. My girlfriend at the time was going away to med school, and she's a doctor now. And everybody thought, you're nuts. You're giving away this beautiful career, and you get to be called doctor and help people and live in a big home and drive a Porsche for what? This instability of being a lawyer, politician. And I got it, but it was the right thing for me. And I needed to make the change. And so at the time, even though I thought I was doing the right thing, I felt like a failure. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't finish the mission. I'm only halfway there. but I knew, having been exposed to different things, that that's what I should be doing. And I think that's inevitably happens with so many of us. It's hard to know everything when you're 22 years old and you haven't been exposed to a bunch of different options that are available to you.
You touched on that, one of the, not that exact same thing, but you touched on that before in our interview. I don't know, it was months ago now when your book came out.
Yeah.
And actually, it made me go to each of our sons and make sure they were all right.
Yeah.
It did. It made me double check because we've got one who wants to be a doctor in particular. And I was like, are you all right? I want to make sure this is like, you really, really, really actually love this. Because, I was like, you need to make sure before you go, because I know a story of a guy who did this, you know, and his own father as well.
Yeah.
Uh, he thought he wanted to be a neonatologist, my husband, and he took all these classes, was volunteering in the hospital, same exact thing. And he was like, this is so sad,
Yeah.
kind of thing. He would come in the next week and people wouldn't be there and things like. He's like, I know, way too sensitive for it. So he's an attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, he does. He's a federal securities attorney. So you
Oh,
guys kind of have the same thing. He didn't pivot to politics, but he has a degree in uh, global poli-sci or something like that from
oh,
Rutgers.
that's cool. Well,
Yeah.
when I made that switch, I was expecting sympathy from my brother of all places, and I didn't I didn't get it. I told him what I just told you. I don't really like it. It's not fun. And he said, "Well, what did you think being a doctor was going to be like, on a daily basis?" And I said, "Well, I imagined myself at this cocktail party after work at the hospital, and I have a lab coat on, and I'm talking to this beautiful young Marilyn Monroe looking lady. And she says, 'Are you a doctor?' And I'm like, 'Yeah, I am a doctor.' And he's like, 'Yeah.' And I'm like, that's it. That's pretty much what I imagine." And he's like, "You're an idiot. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'll make sure and tell that one to Quaid next.
That's
I'm
right.
gonna make sure you be a doctor just to get to that.
Yes,
All right, good.
that's right.
Super funny. All right, so talk about app. Thank you too, by the way. I love speaking with you, and I want every time I see you, I want to go. Are you gonna go back into politics so we have somebody to love?
Thank
Are you
you.
ever gonna do that? Or am I allowed to ask that question? Or is that
Well, never say never. Right now, I feel like my mission is not really getting the trophies for myself. I want to help other people get the trophies, and that's where I feel like that's why I wrote this book. That's what I'm doing now. If I ever feel called to do something else, I'll do it. But right now, I feel like this is my purpose.
okay? Good. Yeah, but yeah, I could see that. I can see you. You're just helpful.
Well, thank you.
And we talked about this last night about help. You're not helpful to your detriment either, are you? Like, how do you fill your cup back up? Because I sense from you, if somebody needs something, you're there.
Yeah, it's selfish in a way. I get a lot of joy out of helping people achieve their dreams. I get joy out of bringing people together and lifting people up and making them feel good about themselves and giving them tools to get there. It gives me a lot of joy. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing it, and it gives me the chance to use my skills of humor and speaking for the greater good. And so it's fun for me to do that. I tell you what's not fun. If I spend like 10 hours and I'm in this nasty litigation and I'm behind closed doors and I'm having to deal with all these details, sometimes that's not as fun. That's what pays the bills. But I can't tell you that it's as fun when I am helping people and trying to lift them up and bring them together. I feel the most joy.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Back to goals. To help people talk about affirmation and visualization.
Yes.
I was just saying this. Our college base. I think you know this. Our college baseball player. He transferred to Georgetown. So he's a lefty pitcher at Georgetown, and he's got this saying. We kind of were talking. I'm like, Cam, like you got to. If you can't see it, nobody else can see it. I kept
Yeah.
saying that to him. I'm like, can you see it?
Yes.
And he's like, I've been able to see this since I was like this big. Yeah, I got it, kind of thing. And but he had to re-believe in himself because of some of the things that had happened in college baseball. He had to kind of like reprogram himself to be like, I believe in me, I believe in me, I believe in me. Can you talk about affirmations and visualizations with respect to your goals and achieving them?
Sure. So let's take a specific goal. The one I wanted to get elected to Congress, and I have it broken down. I believe you do three things. One, you set the goal, make it very specific, exactly what you want, by when you want it. In other words, I wouldn't say I want to lose weight in the new year. I would want to say I will weigh X pounds by Y date, and pick a reasonable thing. After you have that goal, whether it's a sports goal or a financial goal or political goal or weight goal, I believe you should write it down on a card and do two things. Number one, you read it every morning and every night and just brainwash yourself a little bit. And number two, you visualize yourself already there. You're visualizing it, you're already there. So for 10 years, I saw myself up on a stage giving a victory speech for Congress. And when I got there that night for election night, it really freaked me out because it was identical to what I imagined. The cameras going off and the signs waving. The reason the affirmations and visualizations are so important, to achieve something, you need confidence, and to have confidence, you've got to have belief. And reading something over and over again, whether it's true or not, you will eventually believe it to be the truth. You will believe it. And when you visualize something, your brain doesn't really distinguish well between what's illusory and what's real. And it's helping you to believe it. It's like it's almost there. And so the combination of those two things, the affirmation and visualizations, I think are the biggest, most powerful tools in your toolkit. I think they are super powerful. And sometimes if they don't work, it's because people stop doing it. They stop reading that card every morning, every night. They stop visualizing it. But if you have a specific goal by a specific time and you've broken it down to make it reasonable, and then you use those techniques, it's going to happen for you, especially if what you're trying to do is for the greater good.
Okay. I just wrote all that down. We're going to have Rick quotes after this. Is that okay? Can I
Yes.
put that out? It's in your book too. I mean, I think almost that exact. Is that in your book?
Yeah,
I
sure.
thought I read that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So everybody gets to chase the bears.
that's right.
I might take a little snippet of it out then, and maybe I'll take a screenshot of it because I've got your book over there. Do you have your book with you?
Yes,
So I don't have to get up.
there
There
it
it
is,
is.
right
Okay.
there. Chase the Bears.
Yeah, that's a great book. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time, especially since you're, wounded over there. Um, do you have anything else that you want to share with us about goals and helping us achieve our dreams and goals and all that?
I would just say this. I would pick two things about when you set your goals. Pick something that is within your area of your gifts. Pick something that's within your talent area. If you're a great singer, don't pick a goal to make $300,000 a year as a CPA. Pick something within your gifts.
Yeah.
And then second, make your purpose for the greater good. It's okay to be wealthy or fame or powerful, but don't make that the end goal. Make your goal helping other people, and the rest of that stuff will take care of itself.
Beautiful. All right. Where can people find more of you?
So rickkeller.net is my website, and you can get a hold of me there and find out anything about me or my book, rickkeller.net.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you feel better. I hope things heal up fast. And if anybody has any questions, you can type them into the comments after the show. I'll keep an eye on the comments and make sure that Rick sees them. And we just thank you for your time, your energy, and Happy New Year. And thank you very much for being here.
It's been a pleasure. Always is. Thanks for inviting me.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye, Rick.
All right. Bye-bye.